It's game day. The game is finally here, Buckeye fans. We have finally made it to the day where Ohio State is going to try to avenge what's been a tough 4 straight seasons for the Buckeyes against those Michigan Wolverines. I know you're excited about it. I'm excited about it. A happy and a good morning to you all, wherever you're catching me here this morning. My name's Anthony Moeglin. I am with the Buckeyes Roundtable, and you are watching the Buckeye Breakdown podcast here, and we're getting you set for what's hopefully an historic day for the Ohio State Buckeyes as they travel up to Ann Arbor to take on the Michigan Wolverines in a game that has everything you could ever want in a rivalry game. This isn't like years past, especially in recent history, where one team was kind of on the outside looking in. You go back a couple years, and Michigan was kind of rolling, and ended up being national champion. Ended up being really a major part of the playoff conversation, as well as Ohio State in some of those years. But then you look back last year, and Michigan was kind of just limping through their season, and they were able to come up on top of Ohio State in that game. But this year you look at the two teams and they're playing pretty solid football on both sides. Ohio State comes into today's game playing the best football out of anybody in the country. Offense, defense, special teams, you name it. You ask the question, Ohio State is at the top of the list. This defense for Ohio State is unbelievable. It is every superlative that you could ever want. It's so good at every level. The defensive line is the best in the country. The linebackers are the best in the country. The secondary is the best in the country. You're looking at 2 potential top 10, top 15 picks in Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese. They play 10 yards away from each other. Sonny Styles is arguably the best linebacker in the country and the best linebacker in recent history for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And then you look up front at this defensive line. Caden Curry's made a name for himself this year at defensive end. Caden McDonald on the interior has made himself a boatload of money as he is going to become a Sunday player because of what he's done in his development this year. And you could go through every single guy. Davis Bignosin on the outside has been fantastic when targeted. This defense is incredible. The offensive side of the football, when healthy, I think that's a big caveat. When healthy, they're the most efficient group in the entire country. They slow the pace down. They hit you with daggers. They run it down your throat a little bit. They got the best weapons on the outside, and they make big plays because their quarterback is so efficient, and he's playing at such a high level. Now, we'll get into this in a little bit, but things change when they may not be at full strength, and we'll get into a lot of that stuff here. But on the Michigan side of the football, like you can't look past this team. They've proven it the last 4 seasons that if you take them lightly, they will beat you. I don't know why Ohio State's taken them lightly these past couple of years, but they have, and they've gotten beat because of it, and it's been fairly disappointing. Michigan comes into this game and kind of middle of the road, right? They have an offense that is led by a freshman quarterback who's finding his way, right? He's had some good football games. He's had some really poor games where he's completed less than 50% of his passes, maybe through more interceptions than touchdowns. Maybe finished 2 games under 100 yards passing. Like, you see weird things pop up, and then you look at the team, you look at the logo, and you're like, yeah, they've just had Ohio State's number these past couple of years. So the storylines are abundant. There's so much to talk about, so much to get into in covering this one. And I think the place to start is just the pure history of this, right? I was kind of going through a bunch of different cards, a bunch of different images, really, when I was making that title card, that intro card, and I'll pull it up here because I thought I found a pretty cool one here. This is from 1969. All right, the Ohio State versus Michigan. Like, I think that's a pretty cool photo, and it just kind of illustrates just the depth of this rivalry. It goes back, past the 1920s. I see several different all-time records, but the one that I think I'm going to go with, and I'm just going to put a question mark by it, is dates back. The history dates back to 1920, and in that time, it's 124 years. Ohio State has a 51-48-4 record against the Michigan Wolverines. And the cool part about this rivalry is that it ebbs and flows, right? There's stretches where Michigan has the better of Ohio State. There's stretches where Ohio State has the better of Michigan. And right now, Ohio State's in one of those slumps, if you will, against the Michigan Wolverines. They've lost 4 straight to Michigan. You take a 5th one away in 2020 due to the COVID season. Last time Ohio State's beaten Michigan was 2019. I wrote about it yesterday over on Buckeyes Roundtable, which get to the site, links right below me. Just Google it or put it in as I'm talking right now. Go find me over there and hit that follow button. But Julian Sand was 12 years old the last time Ohio State beat Michigan, like 12 years old, and he's going to have the opportunity today to right a bunch of wrongs. But what I find is funny is the conversation right now. Every talking head you listen to, every pundit you listen to, will say that Michigan's dominating Ohio State, which they are in the last half decade here. But since the turn of the millennium. Ohio State has a 17-7 record against Michigan. They had a 10-year stretch or 8-year stretch before this current losing streak, where they where they just were frankly dominating the Wolverines and had the better of Michigan and really put up some gaudy games too. Justin Fields, I think back to with that, he had a 60-point performance. Dwayne Haskins threw up 60 when he had Paris Campbell running wild. And some really fun ones for the Buckeye fans, but this stretch they're in right now is fascinating, right? You think back to 2021 where the cheating, the sign stealing thing was kind of going on, and Michigan wins that football game. Then they come back in 2022 with the national championship caliber team, and they beat up on Ohio State. And then in 2023. They take it to the Buckeyes. They get in there and they thump the Ohio State Buckeyes. That one would have been in Ann Arbor. Yeah, that one would have been in Ann Arbor. And then they come back last year in 2024 and have the biggest upset in recent history, certainly in Ohio State history. Ohio State was 19.5-point favorites and couldn't get the job done against the Wolverines. It was a shocker. It was a surprise, and one that even still to this day, I still don't believe actually happened. Joel Klatt was talking about this a couple of weeks ago on Pardon My Take, and he was like, "Yeah, that was one where he took the headset off, and he was like, I can't believe what I just watched. There's no way that Ohio State actually lost that football game, but they did. And the result of that is a totally different approach to the game this year. It is one where Ohio State, and I spoke about this right away after the loss last year, and talking about how it's really hard. When you emphasize something as much as Ohio State emphasizes this specific game, right? When you're thinking about this game from June and July and August and September, and you're mixing in, Michigan periods during practice in September and October, and then November rolls around and it's starting to heighten up, and you play these games before Michigan, you just get them out of the way because you're just thinking about Michigan. And then you finally get to the week, and then it's the pomp and circumstance on campus. It's the number one lead story on every talk show. It's ESPN's top story all week long. And then you have 60 minutes on Saturday to win the football game. You condense, 364 days worth of thinking about this thing into 60 minutes, and that is a lot of pressure for young people, young men, to have to handle, and we've seen the downside of it these past couple of years. So what has Ohio State done? They've decided to approach this game just like they approach every other game, right? There's not a increased emphasis on it this year. There's not this desperate feel to it, with the hopes of that reverse psychology of hey guys, you guys all understand what this is, but at the end of the day, it is just a football game. And the truth of the matter is that Ohio State is their postseason future is locked up. They're good. They're going to be in the playoff. They don't got any concerns on that front. Their only concern is, hey, they need to get this group of seniors their set of gold jackets, because it's been a very long time since Ohio State's gotten the job done, and it's time to restore a little bit of order on that front. So an interesting approach from Ryan Day, an interesting approach from this Ohio State staff and team, and we'll see how it pans out, right? This could be you got to try something new, right? Because the old way was not working for the Buckeyes, and they're definitely trying something new. So what is that going to look like on the field later this afternoon? I wrote about this again over on Buckeyes Roundtable. We'll come out here in a little bit, getting a little cleanup here before it goes live. But my keys to the football game are different than typical, right? If you read my stuff, you're probably thinking it's more X's and O's, and I honestly think that my keys to this game are more intangible stuff. The first one is handling the environment. How does Ohio State handle this environment? Ohio State, two things can be true at once. Ohio State's dominated this entire year. They look like the best team in football. There's no reason to believe they're not the best team in football. They haven't been challenged since August, right? Since August 28th or whatever day it was they played Texas. They haven't been challenged, and they haven't faced adversity. The only little bit of adversity they faced, I wrote about this a few weeks ago, was against Penn State. Their offense wasn't looking good, and Penn State had that little situation there at the end of the half where they cut it to 3 points, and they really pushed Ohio State up against the ropes for the first time in the entire season. Ohio State responded in kind and came out in the second half and just dominated the Nittany Lions, but that's really been their only test of adversity. How's Ohio State going to handle the adversity they're going to face today? Because it is going to happen. And because the situation, the environment today is going to be crazy. This is their first and biggest road test. This is the best opponent that they've played all year long, bar none. Michigan comes in ranked 15th in the country, and they're playing like the 15th ranked team in the country. There's some good, some bad, but they're the best team that's been on Ohio State's schedule to this point. The away environment is going to be nuts. It's going to be rowdy. It's going to be loud. It's going to be everything you want in this rivalry game. And then, even more so, add the weather element in there too. This is going to be a cold day. It's going to be snowing. They're calling for potentially, I saw one place that's calling for 6 inches of snow. How does Julian handle that? This is his first cold game that he's ever played in. How does he handle that? How does Ohio State handle the environment? I have no reason to believe that they won't handle it the way they're supposed to. They won't handle it with great maturity, as they've in a great business-like approach. But they've proven themselves wrong in the past. That is step number one, is how do they handle, this crazy environment that they're about to face. And then the second point, the second key to this football game is Ohio State's ability to play this game on their own terms. It's been hitting ad nauseum about how Ryan Day is kind of buckled to the fact that he's trying to win a football game on Michigan's terms. He's basically trying to beat the ghost of Jim Harbaugh, right? Where he's trying to win these games in the trenches, between the tackles, between the guards, win it with physicality. When he's got the best athletes in the world, he's trying to win a monster truck race with Ferraris. That doesn't work like that. Hey, dude, run this race outside. Take your Ferraris, take them on the track outside and run the race out there. Win this football game on your own terms. That has got to be it, because, last year I think was a total disservice to, everybody. And truth be told, what does this Ohio State team look like if there isn't a larger playoff? Because if Ohio State comes in as the number 9 ranked team in the country, or number 8 ranked team in college football, you do the math. If that was a 14 playoff last year, guess who's not in it? The Buckeyes. Guess who's probably on either the hot seat or maybe looking for a job? It's Ryan Day. Instead, that bigger playoff allows Ohio State to get in, and the best team rose to the top. The cream rose to the top, and they've proved that they're better than everybody in the country, except for that one time they slipped up against Michigan. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they tried to win a football game on Michigan's terms, and they can't do that today. That has to be on the top of Ryan's mind. Hey, when we have our opportunities to take shots, when we have our opportunities to get the ball to our playmakers, we got to do it, and we got to do it successfully. We got to do it efficiently as well. So definitely are going to have my eye on that. And then those two are the more intangible ones. The one tangible one is Julian Sayin. Has got to be really, really good today. I think that is that's a big one. And part of Julian Sayin playing really well is Ohio State needs to win the turnover battle. That's the third key to this football game. These rivalry games can get weird at times, and things can happen. Big plays happen, momentum shifts, momentum swings. You have to be able to win the turnover battle. You look back to last year's game, and Ohio State lost to a team that couldn't complete a forward pass because Will Howard threw 2 really horrible interceptions. He threw one backed up, way up, that led directly to a Michigan touchdown where they just had to run it into the end zone. And then another one when Ohio State was going in to score, he threw one in the red zone, and that took 7 points off the board. And that on the latter example, and in the former example, it gave Michigan 7 points. That's a 14-point swing. You do the math there, right? Instead of it being 13-10, that's 17-6, right? And we're talking a totally different situation if those go different ways. It's critically important for this offense to protect the football and this defense to find some opportunities to take it away. And I think that by doing that, you can get this Michigan offense, which isn't built to chase. You can get them in backed up scenarios where maybe Ohio State builds a little bit of a lead and Michigan's starting to have to chase points. That's not something that they are built to do. So it'll be fascinating to see how Ohio State handles that. And if they can win the turnover battle, I think they're going to have a really good shot at winning this football game. The big storyline, and we don't, as of the recording of this, as you're watching this, we do not have the news yet of the injury report. And so I don't know what the status of Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith is. They caught Ryan Day coming off the flight earlier last night, and he basically made a comment that both players traveled with the team. If it were me and I was like, I was the coach and I had my 2 stars there and my answer was, hey, yeah, they traveled with the team. That didn't fill me with a bunch of encouragement that they're going to play. Like if they were playing, it would have been an emphatic, like, yep, see you tomorrow. And obviously you're going to hold some stuff closer to the vest, but like saying that they traveled with the team is a scary answer to that. Right? I try to typically read between the lines with coaches and when they speak. And that one was kind of like, that's different. That's weird. So we'll see what's on the injury report. My guess, and this is pure guess, there's no backing behind this. I think Jeremiah is going to try to play. He went on Caleb Downs' podcast this week, said he should be good to go for the week. I think he's going to try to go. We'll see what he is in terms of percentage-wise of how healthy he is. I'd be shocked. I would be shocked if we saw Carnell Tate. Something's not right with Carnell and his lower leg injury. So we'll see some more. We'll see some more details on that. But man, overall, like this is everything college football is about. Like rivalry week's gotten off to an incredible start. Like you go back to last night. Indiana got to boat racing Purdue, which I'm hopeful we'll have a good conversation about that coming up here in a couple of weeks before the Big Ten championship game. But the big one last night was Texas beating Texas A&M. The Texas A&M Aggies were playing with fire for the past couple of weeks, and they finally got. And Texas and Arch Manning, credit to them. They put together a great game, and now they're going to be in the conversation. They have to be in the conversation for the playoff. It's certainly their case study is one that we're going to talk about in the offseason because, man, there's going to be a precedent set here to not schedule hard games early in the season because Texas has 3 losses on the year. One of them came in week 1 in Columbus, Ohio, against the best team in the country. Is it fair? Is it not? Should they have lost to Florida? Should they not have? Probably. But teams slip up. These are kids, right? And the fact of the matter is that, if they're 10-2 and their one bad loss is to Florida and their other losses to Georgia, yeah, they're in the playoff. Yeah, they're definitely in the playoff. So there's going to be a precedent set on that Texas result. Pretty much like a disaster for the college football playoff world, like committee-wise, which we'll get it. We don't have enough time in the world to talk about how much bozos those people are. But this is a disaster for them because now we're going to set a nasty precedent here where teams are not going to schedule these crazy games or the fun games at the start of the year because it'll come back to bite them. Notre Dame may experience something very similar to that here as well. So fascinating stuff there. Georgia beats Georgia Tech in a great game, 16-9. Not a great game, a great competition. Georgia Tech kept it close as far as they could, but were unable to get the job done. And then Ole Miss takes care of Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. And Arizona, as I'm recording this right now, just finished off Arizona State with a nice win there. So rivalry week's the best, man. And we get into today. Obviously, it's the game to start it off. We go at noon. We also will go with Miami and Pitt, who are battling for that spot in the ACC championship game. Huge game there. Miami wins that one. They're going to have a real conversation to be a playoff team. If they lose that one, they're going to be out. If they win it, though, that puts Notre Dame in jeopardy of getting in. And Notre Dame's probably playing the best football in the country, but you can't lose football games, right? You can't lose football games. And when my dad sees this, he's going to text me and say I'm a dummy, but yeah, it'll be really hard to put the Irish in over top of Miami. In my opinion, they are playing good football, but if you do that, it sets the precedent. Again, exactly the same conversation we just had with Texas. If you put Notre Dame in over Miami, guess what goes away? Those week 1, 2s, and 3 matchups where you get these big brands going against each other. If that's the hill college football wants to die on, so be it. And we lose those games in the crossfire, I suppose. So that one's coming at noon as well. And then at 3:30, you got Oregon Washington, which should be a good game, a fun game, but Oregon just needs to take care of business there. And they move it along. The big one though in that 3:30 window is down in Tennessee. The battle for Tennessee, the Volunteers versus the Vanderbilt Commodores. Tennessee, the Vols are 2.5-point favorites in that one. But the Commodores are playing for their playoff lives. If they get a win there, they also enter that log jam with 2 losses. There's going to be a really good 2-loss team that gets left out of this thing. And Vanderbilt may be just that. And then in the nightcap, you got the Iron Bowl, Alabama and Auburn closing down the bar for us on that one. Should be a fun one there. Then USC and UCLA at 7:30. And then that's pretty much the biggest one. SMU takes on Cal at 8:00, but that doesn't really hit me as the rivalry prediction there. But a ton of great football coming our way, a ton of fun football coming our way. And for our game, man, this one opens up. It opened as Ohio State being almost 2 touchdown favorites. The line has moved all the way down to 9.5. 9.5 is the actually, I'm getting my stuff mixed up here. Doing too many shows, getting my Browns lines and my Buckeyes lines mixed up here. Ohio State open as 12.5-point favorites, so still almost 2 touchdowns, but it is down to 9.5 points. That over under sitting at 43.5. It opened at 44.5. So this is the first spread in Ohio State's season that's under, outside of that Texas game, that's under double digits. So that part's at least very fun. Ohio State on the money line still minus 400, and we'll see. I'm not putting my prediction out yet. I'm going to put I got to sleep on it. I got to sleep on my prediction, and it'll come our way at about 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, because I don't know at this point. I don't know how I feel about this one. I'm hopeful to try to wait as long as I can to get the injury news, because I think that's going to play a major role. But we will certainly see on that one. So fun one here for you all this morning. Hope you're up, you're at it. You're either drinking beers, or you're drinking coffees, you're eating bagels, you're eating donuts. You're getting ready for the next edition of the game. This is so much fun. It's going to be one of those classic matchups. We're going to get some snow falling. We're going to get the Buckeyes trying to stay undefeated. We're going to get the Wolverines trying to work their way into the college football playoff, because hey, if they win, they guess who enters the 2-loss conversation with the win over the number 1 team in the country, the Michigan Wolverines. How do you keep them out of the playoff? That would be certainly an interesting conversation to have. But all of it shakes out here in just a few hours. As I hinted before, as you're watching this, I'm on my way to Ann Arbor and planning on being live with y'all from either inside or outside the stadium right around 10:30. So I have our typical pregame coverage. We'll get a short video of showing the environment. I'll also get up my picks and preview episode from the stadium here. But I'm excited to be there and excited to keep giving you some coverage of the Buckeyes. So whatever you guys are doing today, hope you enjoy it. Hope you have an awesome football Saturday. Take it in. This is you're at the tip of the mountaintop right here. This is as good as it gets. It's that final weekend of college football. It's rivalry weekend, and we have a full slate ahead of us today. So take it all in. Enjoy your football Saturday. I'll be with you here in a couple hours here for my picks and preview episode, but I'll also be with you after the game for a live reaction of what happens, whatever happens inside the big house in Ann Arbor. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with me this morning. It's the game. Enjoy the hell out of it, and we'll see you again soon here on the Buckeyes Roundtable.